Welcome, guys. Welcome back to the Radio Toon podcast. How's it going?
Pretty good. It's going pretty good.
I'm Steve.
I'm Ernie.
And we are your hosts. We're going to take you through this adventure of podcasting, if you will.
This grand adventure. All right, cool. Last week.
What?
Last week at the end of the podcast.
Right.
We mentioned Gone Home.
Oh, okay. If you want to talk about this real fast.
Just really quick, because I think it's something I want to address, but I don't necessarily want to take a lot of time on.
Okay.
You know?
Well,
because I played the game.
Yeah, we both played it.
We both played it, but you played it first, right?
Okay. This is how it went down. So
okay.
I guess that game was free on Xbox Live, right?
Yeah, I got it as part of the Xbox Live thing.
And we played it, well, whenever it was free. I think it was the beginning of October.
Yes,
right?
It was beginning of October. Yeah.
Me and you were, we were just chilling outside in the living room, and you had just put your son down for the nap. And you started up this fucking game, and I looked at it, and I was like, wow, it looks like a point-and-click game.
That's what I thought, too.
I was like, man, we're going to love this game. This is great. And so we start playing it, and the more and more we keep playing, we realize that there's no puzzles.
No.
Yeah.
And this is the part that was a little deceptive, because a friend of mine, I won't name who it is, but he was like, this game is great, and it got great reviews, and now it's free, but it's only like a 3-hour game. I was like, I think you'll enjoy it.
If that. I think we finished it like in an hour.
Well, didn't I leave for some part and come back?
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so the other thing, too, is that this game had, like, amazing reviews.
I haven't seen the reviews, by the way.
The Metacritic reviews, I mean, I believe it got pretty good fucking reviews. But, in short, it's more of a walking simulator, because that's an actual genre. I know it's a genre. I mean... And that's what I would call it. It's like...
I would call it almost like an interactive novel.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because your part in it, I guess you would say, is to go from point A to point B, and that's it. There's no obstacles other than you finding everything.
Yeah, you don't really have any influence
Not
on
really,
like, the
no.
story or the game, or there's no people to interact with.
No.
So it's... Well, okay. So all that being said, I thought it was like a really fucking boring game, and I didn't really care about the story.
Yeah.
But we had played it for so long because we were just like, okay, so there's going to be a puzzle, right? Or there's going to be like...
Yeah, because we were... Okay, so the first thing was deceptive, right? Because the first part was like, you come home. I mean, that's the whole thing about this.
Right.
But nobody's home.
Okay.
And so the first part is like, the door's locked. He's like, you got to find the key. Yeah. And I was like, oh, you know what this reminds me of? Or I think maybe you said it. You're like, it's like Shadowgate, where you have to find the key to get in to the castle.
And that's why we thought...
And I was like, oh, maybe that'll be like that. So let's look around. And there's an exploratory nature to it. Like, you have to look around your own house.
Right.
But there's it's like the things that are actually pertinent to the game highlight themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're doing a lot of investigating yourself. You're just kind of listening to a story.
Yeah, exactly. And I've played games like this before. Like, I've played Firewatch.
I've never played Firewatch.
And that game is around the same lines of, you know, what this game is. Mm-hmm. But that game was kind of scary, and it had, like, spooky aspects to it. Mm-hmm. I was expecting something from this game, too. I was like, okay, if they're not going to have, like, puzzles... They're at least going to have, like, some kind of jump scare or something in it, right?
Yeah, because,
and
like...
the thing is, there's nothing in this game like that. There's nothing at all.
I think the part of it that gave us that impression was the whole atmosphere, and I'm talking about the palette as well, is dark.
Empty house.
It's an empty house. All the palette is dark, and then there's even lightning, and there's, like, a thunderstorm happening while you're going in. So you think, ooh, it's spooky.
Yeah.
You know?
There's even static on the TV at one point.
Yeah, so like, it feels spooky, you know? Right. It doesn't feel... It's supposed to feel somber. Because you're listening... Like, essentially, the whole story is you're listening to notes that your sister left you. And they tell this narrative, right?
Right.
But I don't care. Yeah. And that's the problem with this game. I didn't care about it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that this game is essentially only story. Yeah. And if you don't care about the story, then I don't think you're going to enjoy it. So...
It's... Yeah. If you're not into the story in the first, like, 20 minutes... I think I think you should just give up.
And the thing was too, we were both holding out for like, okay, there's gonna be like a puzzle, or we're gonna get to a point where we have to decipher something and write something down. And no, there was nothing. So
like I thought there was a game that you showed me that was like $2 on Steam.
Yeah.
It was called like it was a Safecracker.
Yeah.
Barely any story, but all the
awesome
puzzles
game.
were fun.
I really liked that game.
Yeah, and there was kind of a surface level of a story because remember it was like the person that made all these locks and everything was hiding his will from his family.
Right, and at the end actually, this is a really old PC game.
So spoilers on this like 30-plus-year-old game.
No, not even spoilers. It's just you can they give you like the file to print out his will.
That's cool.
You could take it to like a fucking printer and like print it out.
An old dot matrix printer.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's anything left to say about it.
It was free. We played it.
Yeah,
I didn't love it, but I can't say I hated it.
You know what, too? That game is always recommended to me on Steam because of like point and clicks that I play. Like it's kind of like it's how do you say? It's like it's grouped in with those kind of games, so I was like,
but it's maybe really not. It what's funny is it should be like I know they have these a lot on Steam. They're visual novels where it's like it's not a dating sim. It's literally just like they're usually anime, so that's why I said dating sim. Yeah. But it's like you just go through the novel and you pick an answer that has no bearing on the story,
right?
You know, and that's a visual novel, and some people like that because they like the story and they like to live through it, and that's fine. But that's not really a puzzle. But it's I think it has a classification of puzzle or something because it was also recommended to me on Steam because I have like a bunch of old point and clicks on mine.
Yeah, I have those. They came out recently. They're called The Room. And
yeah,
like those are awesome.
Yeah,
games.
Yeah, I really like those.
But yeah, anyway.
But that's all we're gonna say about.
Yeah, enough of that game. The other stuff that happened this week was BlizzCon, but
that's right.
We don't really play a lot of Blizzard games.
No, I think you play Overwatch.
Yeah, I play Overwatch, and
I think that's the extent of it.
But that's not a real Blizzard game. You know, it's not like World of Warcraft or Diablo or StarCraft. At BlizzCon, they announced a new character, Moira or Moira. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's Moira. But she went up on PTR today, and she's one of these fucking auto-aim characters.
What?
Yeah, like Symmetra or like Winston, where like you just hold the button and it drains your enemy's life. She has a pretty unique mechanic where like her healing ability is like a big meter, right?
Right.
The only way to get that stuff back, your healing ability, is to sap energy from your opponent. So and her gun or whatever is really weak, but she heals herself when she saps like energy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a pretty interesting character. I know, like everybody was asking for another support, so I guess there it is. You know,
support character.
Her look is obviously inspired by David Bowie. If you guys.
Oh, I saw that costume.
Yeah,
the David Bowie lightning bolt thing.
Yeah, it's like she has the
hair.
She has a costume in the game that looks like that. All that stuff. But I mean, more characters is always a good thing in my opinion. So I'm all for it. They also unveiled like a new map, which to me was like, if the map is good, you know, whatever, I don't give a shit. But the theme of it is Blizzard Land or Blizzard World or something. You saw that, right?
Yeah, I did see that, but I thought it was, I didn't, like now that you say it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I thought it was literally like a Blizzard Land.
No. It's just a fucking ad campaign for all their other games, which, I mean, whatever, like, I don't fucking care, like.
It's all free. It's not like anybody really can complain about it. You bought a $40 game a year ago. And it's still giving you free content.
That's what I'm saying too. A lot of people were just like, "Oh man, Overwatch, you know, this fucking they're getting like this ad world or whatever the fuck you want to call it." And I'm like, dude I spent $40 on this game a year and a half ago, and I'm still playing it. I think my money is well spent, you know, at this point. But then the last thing that they showed, like Overwatch wise, was they released like a cinematic featuring Reinhardt.
Oh yes, and this was that cinematic was short and sweet. Yeah. It was a very short cinematic.
It wasn't as long as Maze. Maze was like a 10-minute like
it was
scientific fucking whatever, which was still good. But this one was a lot cooler, if I could say that. It was a lot more actiony. Reinhardt is a character I can't care more about than May. He's one of like my top 5 played characters or something like that. So he's got that going for him. But it's basically the story of Eichenwald. So like when you play that map in Overwatch, there's obviously like a battle that's happened or some shit like that. So this is just explaining.
But years ago,
right?
Everything's kind of kicked over with vegetation and everything.
Right. So this is what happened there years ago. Which
and you find out that that's that guy's armor.
Yeah. Bald something. I don't remember his name.
I really liked this one in particular because I think I've said it before about other like games in general. Is I don't like a lot of wasted, or I should say I don't like fat on my steak. Like I don't like a lot of fluff.
Right. In your
you know,
story,
I don't like filler.
Yeah.
I don't like people being like, well, we got to give him something to do.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this one in particular. Was just the essentials.
That's kind of how these are. These cinematics don't really have a lot of fluff because I mean I don't think they have the time to spare. You know.
No, but like for example, Maze was like you said was pretty long.
Yeah.
But there was a point to all of it.
Yeah, because hers was supposed to feel like she's lonely and you know,
and that takes time.
Time is essential, and like you got to get acquainted with her and her other teammates or whatever. But yeah, I really enjoy this one. The only thing about this, I was telling Ernie about this earlier, and he says I'm crazy. So I'd like to hear what other people think.
Don't agree with him.
Yeah, don't agree with me right off the bat. That Reinhardt like rushes in at one point, right? Yeah. And his general or whatever, his commanding officer says like, he says, "Damn it, Reinhardt," and the way he says it, I'm almost like, are they trying to do like a "damn it, Leroy" thing or something? Because it's Blizzard, and I know they're still milking that to this day, like in very strange ways. Whatever, maybe I'm crazy. The other problem I had with it was that it was obviously like Reinhardt rushes in at one point,
right?
Again, and he leaves his teammates behind, and they say like something like, "Oh, Reinhardt, get back here and cover your team."
Yeah,
and I was like, this is just so made to be into like a GIF. Or like a screen cap, so people could like slap it on Twitter.
No, I thought you said the part that you hated was that the soldiers were there, and then it's like, "Where's Reinhardt?"
I mean, that's part of the scene.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so they made this so people can like use this as an insult towards like their own Reinhardt on their team or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean.
I just if that's really what they were going for, I don't really like that. Just because it's like community humor or community stuff like that. Should just stay in the community. If you're gonna tell a story about like Overwatch characters, just use their own fucking lore and their own like what? Why are they trying to blend these two? It's weird. I don't know.
Okay, so my side of it is when in any action movie you've ever seen, there's always a scene where the lone wolf guy goes in and his general goes, "Damn it, Gomez, get back here!" Or "Damn it, whatever."
Right,
they say that, and so that's my explanation for that. It didn't stick out to me at all, to be honest. Right. When they said that, I felt like, okay, that's of course he would say that.
No, understandable.
The second part, where he supposedly goes, "My team's fine."
Yeah,
and he's like, "Go cover your team." He's like, "Where's Reinhardt?" You have to see the desperation of the soldiers to see that they're really in trouble.
Right.
Because Reinhardt just says, they're fine. Mm-hmm. And you have to see their struggle so that the weight of what happens later hits harder.
Yeah, I don't know, though, because when they first start, there's 3 of them.
Yeah, but they split off into groups, remember? Because they said they were being cut off.
Okay. I don't remember that, actually. I saw it twice, too, so I should. But I don't know.
And plus the big dude shows up, remember?
It was actually on Twitter, like, that moment. And people were putting like, "Oh, Jeff is throwing mad shade at Reinhardt players right now because of that whole." I'm telling you, like, I swear to God, that was their intent. But whatever.
Listen, people are gonna take whatever they're gonna take from it. They could have said anything. One of the things that is always great about when somebody does like a war flick, or they do like anything that has to do with war,
right?
The powerful parts happen when everything is fine, and because of the nature of war, things turn on a dime.
Yeah, so you have like a moment of like the quiet before the storm kind of thing.
Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's great that the whole thing starts out in the bar, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're under attack.
Right.
And boom, it happens. And the same transition for Reinhardt happens when he's about to fight that thing. When he fights that thing, he gets a scar, and then all of a sudden, his maturity takes over after that. You know. And by the way, that line of live for what is it? It's
it was so memorable. You
no. It's because it's been a couple of days since I watched it.
It says like live for honor and
no.
die with glory or something like that.
Yeah. And that line when they echoed it at the end, I was like, wow, that has so much more weight on it after only 4 minutes.
Yeah, it was cool. It's a 7-minute thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, they didn't have much time to kind of draw it out.
But so far, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that they even make these. You know,
yeah, because there's also, if you guys haven't checked it out, if you go to Blizzard.com, they have the digital comics as well. Reinhardt's is also one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, they have comics. They actually put one up for Moira, I think.
Did
I'm
they
not
really?
Sure. Yeah. They might.
Well,
I don't know.
I love the artist that they picked to do that one because it's the kind of art style that has no border on it. It's all it's all just
painted
kind of thing.
Without line work. Yeah.
Exactly. And for Reinhardt, it feels appropriate that his stuff seems almost a little weathered.
Yeah.
Because it's all kind of textured. That's kind of how his personality is, you know.
Yeah,
he's a weathered hero, and both the comic and this short both have a theme of responsibility, no matter what.
Yeah, he's gonna get that skin apparently too. That young Reinhardt skin.
Oh my gosh,
That's
that
pretty cool.
looks so cool.
Yeah,
I love how overly handsome they made him look with the coiffed hair and everything. He's got the bang hanging down. He's like your typical, hey, I can do anything because I'm Reinhardt kind of person.
People were also putting characters from Shrek fusing and then it becoming Reinhardt. So I don't know what that's about.
I saw it. It's like that.
It's like
the White Knight or whatever.
It's like human Shrek, and then the guy that's fucking voiced by John Lithgow.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I can't remember his name. Yeah, everybody knows who he is.
Everyone knows Shrek. Everyone knows memes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the other thing too is that Ernie finished Odyssey.
Oh yeah, so we want to just talk quickly about the ending because the ending of that game. Steven didn't talk about it last time.
Do you want to spoil it, or should we just?
I want to, because I'm going to spoil it just because I really want to talk about the ending because I think it's pretty impressive as far as Nintendo goes.
Don't spoil the post game stuff. That's the good stuff.
Okay, so where do you want me to go to? When they come back to Earth?
We can talk about the Bowser fight.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about.
Okay,
the Bowser
let's
fight.
do it.
So the Bowser fight is one of the better it's one of the better fights that I've had because not only is it just kind of scaled up from you fight him essentially 3 times.
Right.
And it's scaled up as you go. So it's he not only does his regular moves, but then he amps it up every single time.
Right.
But Bowser himself, I don't know if this is the case, but he just seems so much bigger and more difficult this time around.
I don't know actually, maybe, but it's definitely one of the most unique ones because I remember people talk about Sunshine being kind of the underdog or whatever.
Yeah.
That boss fight sucks, dude. Bowser in that game is the worst fucking Bowser.
Isn't it the one where he's in the big tub?
Yeah, and you just have to hit these things these little weird circle things.
Yeah, that's
around him, and it dunks his pool. I don't know. It's fucking stupid.
Weird.
I mean, you said it yourself. You were kind of predicting what's going to happen at the end. You're going to possess Bowser.
Yeah, because the great thing about when you fight Bowser, they did this really subtle thing is each time you hit him, his hat falls off. So you see the coiffed hair. You know what I mean? They really animate it. Yeah. But he keeps putting it on, and you're well, don't I take over people when I take off their hat? So at the end, when you finally defeat him, his suit goes away, and so does his hat. So I immediately was ooh, let me get that guy, right? Because you can't get Peach because she's wearing the tiara.
Yeah.
So immediately when you do that, it's so gratifying to play as Bowser.
Yeah, it is. It's cool because it's it's probably the first game where you get to play it. I mean, not counting Mario Party 10 that fucking sucks. It's the first game. Probably
Mario RPG, which is totally different.
Which is a great game. But yeah, it's one of the first ones you get to control Bowser and use his powers. I had
so much fun playing as him.
It was a really crazy sequence. And then to top it all off, like that last part where you're like destroying this cube thing, they play like this crazy rock song that has lyrics and stuff. It's like so
cool.
It's so like out of character though for a Mario game that it's like it was really like a pleasant surprise almost.
Yeah,
you know?
and in the middle of that, okay, so basically when you're playing Bowser, the reason Mario takes him over is because Mario has to carry Peach.
He has to get everyone out.
He has to get everybody out, and he can't carry Bowser, so he takes him over and then puts Peach on his back.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to see, like him with the Mario hat and then the mustache and then Peach on his back.
Yeah.
And at one point in the sequence, you become the sprite version.
Yeah, like
of
that 8-bit version.
Exactly, and you have to break blocks and throw fire, and I'm like, this is so cool. It was so cool, in fact, that I was like, could they make like a Super Bowser game?
Maybe,
because I would be interested in playing that.
Yeah.
If I retained all these powers and somehow they built a sequence around this, I would totally play it.
Yeah, it was. It's definitely a really memorable like last sequence altogether.
Yeah, and like the story that wraps around it, I love the motif because like you end up like I guess this. I mean, we already said spoilers, but like the last level takes place on the moon, which is really cool because like then the motif of it being white and everything really comes together.
Yeah.
And then like you show up at their wedding and all the different characters I don't know if they were invited or they were forced to go there, but they're all sitting around with all the different things that you know Bowser used to capture everything, and it's just such a nice ending sequence.
Yeah. It is really cool, not to mention that like a game where Mario jumps obviously ends on the moon. So there's moon physics.
And
that's
it's the
like
other thing.
Yeah, everything is just like fucking insane. Like I don't know. It's almost kind of like, how did they not ever do moon physics in a Mario game before that? You know, like isn't that kind of strange to think about?
It is, but then I think of maybe it was a limitation thing. Because you remember how big that moon level actually is.
I know, but even like in Galaxy, you know, that's a.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's fucking like.
Well, you know what? That would have been a slam dunk if there was moon physics on Mario Galaxy. Never mind, I take that back.
You know what also is pretty crazy too is like you look at a game like Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, or let's just look at Galaxy 1 for a second. That game comes out and a lot of people were like, "How is Nintendo going to top this?" Right?
Space, yeah.
Right, and then you know the answer is, well, they don't. They just do Mario Galaxy 2, and they're still in space. And then, like, you know, fucking silence for, like, 10, 7... how many years was it? Like,
well, are you counting the Wii U versions and stuff?
Well, not really, because those were a little more watered-down versions.
Yeah.
But now you have Mario Odyssey that somehow seems bigger, and somehow seems like it went further somehow, even though it's not, like, in space, you know? Like, it's so crazy to think about that, but, you know, it just goes to show that if you take a bunch of time, like, fine-tuning something, you know, that turns out fucking great. It was a really great game.
Yeah, not to borrow too much of like I guess a lot of what people have been saying, the density of each level is really surprising, you know, because then after, like, I'm not going to spoil anything about the post-credit sequence or anything, but essentially you can go back and play some of the old levels because there's tons of stars still left over.
Right.
And just the fact that they're, like, you can go back to, like, the hat area and redo those stars, because there's a lot of stars there too. And I went back. I'm like, this is so much fun.
Oh, you mean the first?
First hat level,
Bonnet Ton or something?
Yeah. It's where the top hat, all the top hat stuff is. Just being able to go back there in the ship and just start like harvesting.
Yeah, there's something like 900 moons or something in the game altogether.
Yeah, 999 moons.
Oh, there is
990. I saw somebody's on there where it said like it was the post where it had all the moons and it says and Alexander wept, for there were no more countries to conquer.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I was like, oh, that's good. But just being able to go back, because, you know, before you weren't able to do all your tricks and get moons and all that stuff. So now that you can, it's great. I can't wait to go back to every level.
Yeah, so, you know, I would say this game is, in a lot of ways, very flawless. But if there is one flaw that I would like to point out, I don't know if it's necessarily a flaw, but, you know, let's take a game like Mario 64, for instance, right?
Okay.
I love Mario 64. I could play Mario 64 a million times over, 100% completion, and I think it's fun every single time. Every time I start a file on Mario 64, the goal is, it's an obtainable goal, basically. This Odyssey has kind of the same, like, not problem, but it has the same what am I trying to say? It's a lot like Breath of the Wild, where like once I beat it once, like fully completioned or whatever, like 100%. Right. I'm not sure if I want to go back and do it again for a while, you know?
Right.
Mario 64, like I'm saying, like I beat it 100%, and like the next day I'm like, dude, start that shit up again. Or I see somebody playing it, and I'm like, damn, I want to play Mario 64 again. Mario Odyssey is like, I'm still working on trying to get 100%. Mm-hmm. God knows how long it's going to take me. Once I complete it, you think I'm really going to like say like, oh, let's start it over and do all this shit over again. And it's like the same thing with Breath of the Wild, because like I feel like, you know, Majora's Mask is a game that I can constantly start up and finish, get all the masks, and it's really fun. Mm-hmm. But like Breath of the Wild is more of like a, geez, it took me so fucking long to like collect all this stuff and to get all my skins or whatever. Like, do I really want to do this all over again? Or, you know, another example is Phantom Pain. You know?
Okay, yeah.
It's a great Metal Gear game, but am I necessarily going to go back and play like fucking 120 hours expanding my base, you know, like doing all this extra stuff? I don't really think I'm going to do that again, you know? But, you know, you look at Metal Gear Solid 1 and it's like, fuck yeah. Like totally, I could totally sit down and play that game again. It's
I think this comes into the problem of the length of these games. Mm-hmm. Because Metal Gear Solid, you can, because of how well you know that game,
right?
I bet you can beat it in like 5, maybe 6 hours. You know, it's not, once you know how to do everything, it almost becomes second nature to do everything.
No, right? I understand that.
And in Metal Gear Solid, there's very few things that you need to collect to be able to do anything. When it comes to Mario, there's only like a couple buttons you need to push to activate certain things.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like that's kind of the thing. It's like, it's almost like a DS game where you can pick up and play wherever you are. Mm-hmm. But in terms of, like you're saying, Mario and Link, the newer ones,
like replayability,
there's so much that you collected that you almost want to sit there and look at your collection.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to start your collection all over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. And I think you're right. I think once I get through Mario Odyssey, it's going to be a really long time before I go like, all right, I'm going to throw away all my costumes that I worked so hard to get, and I'm going to start all over again.
That being said, though, okay, let me just say this. That being said, we played Mario Odyssey like 3 or 4 fucking times from the start. Because if you guys don't know, we've been playing we've been doing a Let's Play playthrough of it or whatever.
It's called Play Toons on YouTube. Go ahead and look it up.
Yeah, it's on there. Go ahead and check it out.
Soho Shuffle.
And the footage fucked up, and we're like, all right, let's try it again. The footage fucked up again. But every time we were playing it, we were still like enjoying ourselves. You know?
So the versions that we're seeing right now, the ones that are up on YouTube, is us probably at the 4th or 5th time playing that level. Because not only were we playing it for the show, but we were also playing it individually.
Yeah, we were playing our own files too. Yeah, and
by the way, I love those moments in those playthroughs where like either you will go like, wait, what is that? Well, wait, what is that? Like we discover new things on the 3rd or 4th playthrough.
There's still things to be discovered, basically. So I that's why I said I don't really know if I want to call it a flaw or not. You know, it's just.
I think it's just the nature of that because, like, for example,
it's just how games are nowadays, I guess. Right?
Yeah, because, like, for example, like let's take a really successful game that was really, really long and had the same problem, which is like Fallout 3. I have only restarted that game twice.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good example because I feel the same thing about Skyrim.
Yeah, how many times have you restarted Skyrim?
I've only had one file, and it's been like 300 hours, and then I haven't even completed the main story because it's like, it's that type of game where like you collect stuff. Yeah, I have good armor in that game, and I don't want to lose it. I don't want to like.
It's almost like a collection because, like, I the reason that I restarted twice was because I started on my 360, right? And then when I went over to my PC, I started again, but I lost the file and then had to start it again when I got like it all repaired. So twice I've restarted it.
I don't know. You know, like Fallout is obviously a different game.
It is, but I think the same rule applies to the collect-a-thon that you do in both games. Yeah, you know.
But yeah, so I don't know that was all we wanted to say about Mario Odyssey. I think. Right, because we're halfway through this podcast, and
and we did want to talk about one other thing, and it was
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things,
yeah. So Stranger Things 2 came out, and I said it before. I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about it, And I thought that was weird, so I asked Ernie, like, hey, would you be interested in watching and talking about it on the podcast? And he said, sure, why not? And he just finished it today?
Yes, today.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts? Complete spoilers, by the way, on Stranger Things. So
We spoil everything on here, so just as a rule of thumb, just we spoil everything.
Yeah. Right.
Now, overall, as good. Let's see. It's two different things, right? But I think they're equally as good.
Okay.
Okay, because I saw the ending.
All right.
I did like the ending and the way they ended things in part 2.
You did?
I did like the way they ended it.
I thought it was a little bit lame.
Okay.
To be completely honest.
It was, but only because they wanted to give everybody a happy ending this time around.
I don't even mean that. I mean, okay, so Millie Bobby Brown, the girl that's playing 11, her hoisted up and screaming, like closing that gate, I thought looked really lame.
It did.
I mean, it's kind of like, I said this about Infamous. You make a real person like do supernatural things, it looks fucking stupid sometimes. It doesn't always look cool.
Okay.
So
all right, yeah, I know. I like those. These are going to be nitpicky things, but let me say, because I want to be fair, these are the things that I liked and that were good. Okay.
Okay.
The action was really good on this one.
All right.
There was a lot of action in this one.
Right.
The story, the scope of the story was bigger, which is something you usually want to do in a sequel.
Sure.
You want to keep making the story bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
The third thing is, they did try to flesh out more character traits.
Okay.
That is a positive for me. And then lastly, although it doesn't seem like a good thing, the separation between Mike and 11 made their reunion so much stronger.
Okay.
So those are the really positive things for it, and they're big things because you can go into each of them and kind of, like for example, the action. They obviously the Duffer Brothers had a way bigger budget, so they did the huge monsters. They did more, they call them demi-dogs. They did like way more stuff. There's a nail bat.
Yeah.
There's a fight. There's so much action in this.
Real quick, just to give you a kind of an idea of that. So I guess in season 1, they had a guy in a rubber suit who played the monster most of the time, and they had one guy working part-time doing CG. That was the extent of the CG in the first season. Season 2, they said that about half of the office there was CG, like 3D artists and that kind of stuff. So there you go, there.
And it makes sense because, like I said, the story got big, got much bigger.
Right. And
now let's go into the things that I think you and me talked about earlier, where we were like, we didn't like this stuff.
You said it last week too. It's like there's just too many fucking characters. Like
that is one thing that kind of sucks with the ensemble characters like that.
Yeah.
But what they were trying to do, and this is a good and a bad thing, this is kind of 50-50 for me, is they tried to expand all the personalities of all these different characters. And the way they tried to do that is they tried to pair them differently. So, for example, in the last one, when Will was in the Upside Down, Mike was paired with 11. Right, and then Dustin and Lucas were paired together because they were the ones going back and forth about 11, right? So these were the pairings.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
In this one, they tried to do something different where, like, 11 was paired with Hopper. Judy was paired with her new boyfriend. Like they tried to separate.
Who's Judy?
I'm sorry. Not Judy.
Nancy?
No. Jonathan and Joyce. Sorry, Joyce. She was paired with Hopper but more so with her boyfriend and stuff. Like
right.
They separated them so that different traits of their personality would come out.
Right. I understand what you're saying because right. Mike and Will spent a lot of time together in this one. Dustin and Steve have kind of like a bromance going. Lucas and Maxine have their thing going.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
So in that way, they tried to expand each character's story. Now the problem with that, and I'll let you take that one because I think we both agree with the problem with doing that.
What are you gonna say? They just didn't have enough time, or what?
No, the pairing seemed odd in some points.
Well, I don't know. There was the Duffer Brothers were saying that like the reason that they left this this season kind of like closed, I guess.
Right.
All the loose ends were tied together, and it was like a
for the most part.
Yeah, it kind of ended on a high note. Them at the dance.
Mm-hmm.
The only kind of hint you got at the end was like the shadow monster above them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And just a side note, we'll talk about this later, but the music selection at the end was like, what the hell, dude?
Yes.
Like, could you have been more heavy-handed? But anyway, keep going with that.
They said that they left all those loose ends tied together at the end because first season they had foreshadowed like, okay, Hopper and Eleven are gonna be paired up in season 2 because you see him leaving food for her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Will is gonna have some kind of upside down flashbacks. You know,
right.
Because that happens at the end of season 1. This season they almost felt like they were kind of obligated to kind of
continue that.
Yeah, and they weren't saying like they didn't like that they had to do that, but it was definitely them trying to do like, okay, we gotta have Hopper and Eleven, we gotta have Will in this, and we're also gonna do all these fucking other characters, and like it was basically too much for them, I think.
Yeah. And see the problem, and here's the problem with having so many characters, right? To me, they fall into this symptom of we need to have so and so do something while this is going on.
Okay.
Or we can't have this character here, so we have to find a way to get him over here. And if you don't give a good enough reason that feels natural for a person to go somewhere, you're like, okay, why would they do that? And it bothers you.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about this season that are definitely like forced.
Right.
So I don't know.
Like, for example, one of the characters that I thought was completely unnecessary. Mm-hmm. Although I will say he did an excellent job portraying that character.
Oh, you're going to say Billy.
It was Billy.
Yeah, so
Billy seemed like if you cut him out of the story, the story is fine.
Okay, my biggest problem with Billy and Maxine were that, like, they are introduced and they're very mysterious, right?
Right.
You don't know what's going on with them. She gets in the car with them and he's just like, we're not family or something, and he's like...
But we are a family.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, and you know why we're here, right? Whose fault is that? And you don't know too much about them. And then there's a scene where he's like going to run over kids, and you think like, okay, maybe they're above the law somehow. Yeah. Maybe they're kind of like, they're like 11, maybe they have powers or something. Maybe, I don't know where they came from. The payoff to that is like, oh no, they're just stepbrother and sister, and his dad abuses him, and he's just like some like...
Yeah, and see, you know how you said that at the end everything is nicely tied up. There's so many loose strings when it comes to Billy.
I mean, that's why I think he was unnecessary.
Oh my gosh. Like, the thing that bothered me the most about his character was he shows up at Nancy's house, and then there's this weird scene with Nancy's mom and him. Like, she's going to have sex with him right there, like, at the front step.
I don't understand that, yeah. It's, like, whatever they did with the Wheelers... I feel like they were either ignored in the script or like...
Well, no, like, I get it. Like, they've been portrayed that way. Like, he's like, honey, where are our kids? Be back by 11. Like, the dad's totally checked out.
Yeah.
And the mom is, like, always on the phone.
As far as I'm concerned, Holly is dead. Their other daughter.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't get this introduction of this plot point. Because it happens right at the end. And it's like, So what? This is going to be one of those weird teen things where the mom has sex with this kid and it's going to be a problem?
I don't know, but that part to me was kind of like, okay, are they just trying to be funny at this point?
I don't know. And then like the resolution to Billy it doesn't make any sense. He's a violent character, so the way that they solve the problem is they're more violent to him.
Yeah, like...
and then somehow that quails him?
Like, they put him to sleep and whatever.
Well, yeah, no, not even that. Like, she threatens to hit him in the balls with the nail bat.
Yeah.
So she's basically doing the same thing that her dad does to him.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is not a satisfying ending to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I said the character is unnecessary, because it's like, it feels like they didn't know what to do with him. Because at one point, even, like, they show that his dad beats him.
Yeah.
So, I'm supposed to sympathize with this character or something, but even in the behind the scenes, they're just like, oh no, he's definitely an asshole and a bad person. So I'm like, okay, so...
Then why include that scene?
I just don't understand, like, what I'm supposed to feel regarding this character, you know?
That's what I mean. It's like... And then they throw in that racist angle.
Yeah.
But they don't throw it in like full force. It's just kind of like a hint.
Yeah.
But Billy's not the kind of character who just does things to like. He's not subtle about anything.
Right. It's kind of like in BioShock Infinite where they're like, oh, that game is so brave because, it took on racism. And it's like, okay, but they didn't even say the N-word. I'm not saying you, like, that it's a good thing to say it, but...
If you're going to do that.
Yeah, don't censor history, Yeah. Like, that. Let's be real about this.
Or
like
fake history, whatever. But, like, if Billy really was that person...
Uh-huh.
Because, okay, yeah, so here's the thing.
I know what you're trying to say. Billy wouldn't be shy about saying that, basically.
Well, because here's the thing, like, and it bothers me. Because while he has a confrontation with his dad is obviously where he got all this racism from and this violence. Obviously, that's translated. But he drops a slur for gay people.
Right.
That's also an F word.
Uh-huh.
So he says that.
Uh-huh.
Right? Isn't that just as offensive?
I don't know.
But people are like selectively offensive.
I don't know. I'm not even going
to... according to this show.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it bothers me because they were trying to say something, but then it didn't go anywhere.
They were trying to be brave.
And they just watered everything down. I'm like, dude, what? So don't include it.
Yeah, no, it's like...
Just cut it all out.
It's almost like, so... What if she'd ended up with Dustin? He wouldn't have been racist at all? Like, what I don't understand.
I don't know. And that's what I mean. Like Billy, and it's the problem with doing this big story is that you get all these characters who have to do things. Like I think you were telling me about Ben, which is Joyce's boyfriend, right?
Bob.
Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, Bob is Sean Astin. He's the kid from Goonies. He's also Sam Wise. Yeah,
I saw the episode of Beyond Stranger Things where they talk about him. And they talk about, we loved him so much, we kept him around. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That's why he felt so intrusive.
You know what, too, is like, I told you this when I was watching, and I was like, do you think the fact that it's Sean Astin, like a well-renowned actor, do you think that played any kind of role in the story? And it turns out that it did, because they were like, this guy was so charismatic and everybody loved him. We kept putting off his death. He was supposed to die in like episode 2. Will was going to kill him via some trick or some shadow monster like, oh, go look for them there and, you're going to die or something. Whatever.
So essentially what happened to the soldiers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He was supposed to die sooner, and they kept putting it off. And then his death ends up being ultimately pretty fucking stupid anyway.
Yeah.
Like, the way they kill him is so, like... He was clearly out of the lab, and he stops to smile at Joyce, and he gets mauled by the Demodog. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding?" Even before that, when he's when he comes out of that closet area, and he drops like a broom, I'm like, "Are you seriously gonna do this to this guy?" Like, the broom is what kills him. Are you really gonna do that?
Because here's the thing: like, there's no like. We kept joking around about his easy peasy line.
Yeah.
And I thought that mantra was going to carry over to something else.
Uh-huh.
And I thought there was going to be like a real resolution to his end, right?
Uh-huh.
But like there's no like his character is fine the way he is. So he doesn't arc, he doesn't change.
Uh-huh.
He's always the way he is.
Right.
But that's the problem. If the character has no arc, if they don't do anything, then their death kind of is okay, he's dead.
I know. And
and not to say anything about the actor, because he was really good in that role. He played it exactly how he was supposed to play it.
Yeah.
It's just there was nothing to work with.
Yeah, it was funny, too, how they added that line about... he's like, oh, what's... when he's looking at Will's map, he's like, oh, an X, huh? What's at the X? Pirate treasure? And it's like, oh...
I didn't even get that.
Oh, that's right, because this is the kid from Goonies, and they did pirate treasure.
I totally didn't get that.
I get it. Anyway, yeah, I know what you're saying, though. Like, it just... Even afterwards, when the kids are just like, you guys know that Bob funded or like started the AV
Oh my
club?
gosh, I hated that line.
I was just like, come on, dude.
I hated that line.
It just so happens that this guy started the AV
did you guys
club.
know that Bob was a really, really great character? He's like, don't tell me things about Bob.
Yeah.
Show me things.
Yeah,
like it's a whole thing about like visual mediums. Show me, don't tell me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what makes him better. Like I did like Bob for Joyce.
Yeah,
because
it was together. They got along really well, and it was a good match.
Yeah, but they were supposed to be like, he was supposed to have this normalizing effect on her, like trying to get her life back on track.
Yeah, he even says like, let's just move out of Hawkins.
Yeah, do
altogether.
a clean slate or something. Like, there could have been a dynamic where Bob is brought from that and is changed in a negative way from being around Joyce, like make him cynical or something. Something interesting could have happened with him.
Right.
But like you said, it was that he was such a great guy and he was so charismatic. They didn't want to do anything to him. They didn't want to kill him.
Right.
You know? And I think the series suffered because of that.
I mean, that's what makes Steve so likable, right? In season 1.
Yeah.
Season 1, it's like he's an asshole, right? Up until the very end when like they spray paint the sign to say Nancy the slut wheeler.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and he's like, you know what? Like let me help you clean that sign, dude. And then he goes to their house and he saves them from the Demogorgon.
Yeah.
And it's
but that feels natural for his character.
Well, this is what I'm telling you this. At the end of that season, you like him because he went through a significant change,
right?
You know, in his character. And it's another reason why in this season, like, he has nothing to do, and Nancy is paired up with Jonathan, and it's like, so why is Steve here still? Like, why did you let him survive in season 1?
Yeah.
If he's just gonna dick around with like Dustin, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, those actors, they have chemistry. It was a cute like scene and stuff that they had, but it's still kind of like,
it felt a little forced.
Yeah, it's like, what does that really? I don't know. What does that really add to the whole like grand scheme of things?
Well, here's the thing. Like, it's a little forced. I will totally agree with that. It's not buttery smooth like the way Steve kind of changed over between in season 1, but it works in what they were, because they're okay. So the kids aren't kids anymore. They're becoming teenagers. Yeah, right. So because of that. And it happens with kids. I mean, it happened when I was a kid too. You look to people that are slightly older than you, as like role models.
Those are cooler than like
exactly like people. when I was like a kid. When I was like 15, 14, there was some people who were just a little older and they started to drive, and I was like, wow, they're like adults. Yeah, you know, hey, tell me about blah blah blah, or how you dress, or blah blah blah, or how talk about girls, or blah blah blah. So it makes sense that Dustin would reach out like that. You know, because you could tell he's kind of been sheltered by his mom, because she's bubbly and everything, and they get along really well.
Right.
You know, it feels like that would happen, but the way it happened was kind of like, oh, a coincidence. You're here, and if he hadn't come back to apologize to Nancy,
the reason that they get together is kind of weird.
But once they
they also both like Nancy. If that wasn't clear.
No, yeah, of course it's clear.
Because season 1, remember, he goes upstairs and he offers her pizza, and she just closes the door on him. Yeah.
But like, it feels natural after the fact, because he's trying to, at the end when he does his hair and all that stuff. It feels good to see the two of them kind of like he's mentoring him almost.
Yeah, that was like a lot of the dance parts when they're at the end were like, okay, this is kind of cool.
All except for Will. Will felt weird.
Will and 11 kissing or what?
You mean Mike and 11?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Will just some girl comes up to him and says, "Hey, zombie kid."
Oh yeah.
And I didn't get that. Maybe I forgot what that was referencing to. He had to
get a girl, I guess.
Exactly. It just felt weird.
Yeah. But
the positive thing is that I feel like the kids are growing up. Which is a good transition from season 1 to season 2.
Quite literally on screen, because apparently 11 ages in 8 seconds after she gets...
Of course, I know. But like, what I'm saying is, like, in the first one, they were this tightly knitted group. I think they say on Beyond Stranger Things, like, they don't really play D&D that much. They play video games more. They're talking about girls more. So it feels like a transition that's happening, right? And whether or not they did it smoothly in season 1 is debatable. But I will agree that, like, it is furthering the story, which is why I do like it.
Okay, one thing to bring up is, she just has to be the most controversial character in this whole fucking thing is Callie.
Oh my gosh.
8.
We're running out of time here, and I feel like I could keep talking about it, but 8 seemed like so, like they decided to shove this in here because it's like, hey, maybe we could spin something off. It almost feels like a spin-off thing.
I feel the same way I do about, like, The Matrix Reloaded that I do about Stranger Things 2. I'm like, you introduce all these fucking weirdo freaks that you think you can kind of, like, flush out in other ways, and it's not going to happen. Like, Callie and her whole gang, I really didn't like.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
That
either.
whole episode was really a lot of like, man, this is not hitting for me. You know, like
It's that problem like in any movie where you have to go, hey, come in here and meet the gang.
Yeah.
And they go like, that's so and so. He knows how to do this. Meet that guy. He's
Except-
our weapons specialist. Meet that. I hate those scenes.
man,
I really hate them.
All of those characters fucking sucked. Not to mention like
They don't. You don't know anything about them.
they're not good characters, man. Like, not to mention their whole thing is like they wear masks, right? This one guy has a big fucking mohawk like sticking out of the top of his mask. You're telling me like, so nobody's gonna know who it is if he has a mask on. Like, what the fuck is that about? And
Dude,
I mean,
the part where they dress up 11,
okay,
like in her new digs, I'm like, that looks cool. I'm not gonna deny that she looks good in that costume.
okay,
But why?
I did. I mean, that's the other thing too. Is like I was saying that episode was just really missing it for me, right?
Yeah, because it seems like totally like
It's a very okay. The episode starts with this fucking song that's like really 80s song. I think it's called Runaway. She's a little runaway or something like that.
Yeah.
So immediately I was like, this fucking sucks, dude. Like, this music is not really matching with the scene, right?
Yeah.
Second of all, if you're
80s punk or whatever, yeah.
Okay, second of all, if you're gonna have an 80s themed show or whatever,
Yeah.
do a real fucking montage, dude. Because the way that she like gets trained or whatever, like they even call in Beyond Stranger Things, they call like Callie her Yoda or whatever.
Yeah.
It's one fucking scene of her screaming at a train and that's it.
Yeah.
You guys could have done this so well. Like, think of.
So nobody ever told her to channel her anger.
Like, okay, I was just watching Mulan.
Yeah.
Mulan has a great fucking montage where she's like, you constantly see her like failing at certain tasks, and then the guy tells her like, just take your horse and go home, and then she finally like she learns to tie the weights and like climb the bar or whatever, get the arrow, and then you see her training with sticks, and it's just a great fucking moment. Like they wrote a song for it, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, you guys could have done so much with this fucking scene.
Yeah.
And instead, it's just like Callie saying like, "Use your anger. Oh, if something made you fucking pissed off, then okay, then just pull the train."
Pretty sure she never drops the F-bomb, but
okay,
I get
whatever. Yeah. By the way, like, is it established that she's supposed to be like?
I don't know what she.
A certain age.
I don't know what she is. Like,
Because
I don't know if she's supposed to be older. I don't know if she's supposed to be younger.
I'm like,
I don't know if she's been there the longest.
yeah, I was like, okay, so they were both kids at one point, right? But she looks like she's like 28, 30, and
Yeah, but in the flashback she looks younger.
yeah, I have no fucking.
But
clue,
she's
dude.
8, so she should have come before 11.
I don't really know, but
And it almost feels like she was there longer than 11. Like she had been there longer, like from her start date to longer than when 11 left.
she's more. Her powers are more refined
And
somehow.
developed, yeah, exactly. So I don't know what is up with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like that whole scene.
I mean, not to mention like her character itself is a lot like. Okay, you give Elle telekinesis, that's one thing, Callie is like this weird shit that requires a bunch of CG, basically, like
Yeah, where she
like,
makes people see what she wants.
Yeah,
but it's selective.
Well, yeah, exactly. That was one of my points. Is that like you're making this power up that kind of has like these unwritten rules. So there's a lot of like holes in it. Like,
yeah, it felt inconsistent because, like, for example, like she was able to make what's his name see spiders.
Yeah.
Right. And he knew she was doing it because he said, "Hey, knock it off," whatever.
Well, I mean, the other thing is too is like it's like, okay, you live with this bitch. How do you not know that's like, gonna happen every once in a while?
But
like
here's my discrepancy. So she does that to him. He sees spiders. Okay, but he pretty much knows it's her. And then they tell the gas station attendant, they're like, "Hey, your bathroom's flooding." So it goes in there.
Yeah.
And then when they're robbing the place, then she tries the mind thing again on him, and it's not working.
No, she just tells him like, "Oh, we're robbing not you." We're robbing like the people.
No,
you
but
work
she's
for.
trying to get him to like.
I don't think so. Actually, I think she's just talking to him.
What? But
I don't know. Why wouldn't she make him?
Yeah,
see
why
something
wouldn't she do? It seems that's what I'm saying. It's like selective.
That's what. Yeah.
And then 11 knows that she's making pop up here in front of her.
Yeah.
To talk to her, and she says, "Stop it, get out of my head." I was like, wait a minute, like, wait, what?
Yeah, so if you know that it's going on, how come it doesn't disappear sometimes,
Exactly.
right?
So it felt like really... I'm sorry
Yeah,
to use that word. It's selective.
But because the cops, too, she was like, oh, everybody stay still and they won't see us.
Right.
and then somebody drops something or something and makes noise, and they snap out of it or something. I'm like, how does that work? Like,
I don't know. And then like they saw a wall, so they were like, whoa, and they're staring at it, but then it starts to go away.
Yeah, because I don't know, she stops
I don't know.
concentrating.
Well, it didn't seem like it because everything stopped. They stopped shooting at the bus or the van, so it's not like they were. It's not like they were actively fighting against the illusion. They were all standing in awe, looking at it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah,
it was weird.
That's what I mean. It's like you that's another character like you introduced, and it's like you're not going to be able to fully flush them out in the time allotted.
Right.
You're going to leave.
So you're just going to do this in one episode, but it's not even the full episode. It's only like half of the episode.
I don't know.
And it's
that was really that episode was honestly like such a headache for me, just because I'm not really a fan of 80s stuff.
I know.
And then, it's just so much of that shit like wrapped up in one, like.
And then lastly, mm-hmm. I want to get to this because it did bother me a lot. But like Jonathan and Nancy's arc.
Yeah.
I really didn't like it.
It was.
I don't like them together.
I mean, yeah, you want to talk about force? This guy literally is telling them like, "Hey, cut the bullshit, go share the bed, and have sex in my house." I'm like, what is going on here, dude?
Like this the whole thing about Barb splitting up Steve and Nancy. Like Steve is telling her, dude, we can't say anything or else they're gonna come after us.
Uh-huh.
And then she's like, so you don't even care? And then all of a sudden she's like this she's just like, I'm gonna take down the government, right? And so her and Jonathan devise this plan to go take down Hawkins' lab by getting him to incriminate himself on a tape recorder and then taking it to this guy. Like, I don't know how any of that got put together. Like, how did they know about this guy who was like trying to take down Hawkins?
Yeah.
How did they know that they were being listened to?
Oh, you're talking about what is his name, Brett Gilman or something?
Yeah.
I think his name is Murray on the show.
Yeah, whatever.
They know about him because of Barb. Barb's parents hired him as like a
oh, that's how they found out? Okay, yeah. But I must have completely missed that then, because I was just like, what?
Well, you missed a lot of the first episode.
Yeah. But anyway,
watching it.
Like, it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And then they take off, they're there, the parents don't care where they are, which is another weird thing that happened in Nancy's family. And the whole scene where they're with Gelman, and he's like, they're celebrating this thing, and they're like, hey, so you guys can take the bed. And they're like, oh no, can I share this couch? And all of a sudden he gives a shit whether or not they sleep together.
I mean, look, this was the problem with season 2 in general for me, was like, anytime there was adults on the screen, I was cringing, because I was like, you guys understand that, like, the reason people watch this fucking show is because of the great child actors, right? Like, that's the appeal of this show. No offense, but, like, nobody gives a shit about the 80s, like, references in the first season. There was hardly any. You guys are, like...
Oh, and they made it a point to reference 80s all throughout this whole thing.
No, yeah, and
the music selection was so heavy-handed.
It really is, and like I said, like, I don't really like 80s stuff, so it just feels, like, mismatched to me almost.
Well, it's not even that it's mismatched. I mean, it's dead on of what they're trying to do, because, like, the last song that they choose is a song where it goes, I'll be watching you.
Yeah, and it's the guy watching.
And I'm like, and who?
It's the Shadow Monster watching.
Well, like, they're playing it, and they're like, oh, like they said in Beyond Stranger Things, it's like, that was a big hit that year. And then it goes to the Upside Down, and it turns out the Shadow Monster is watching them. I was like, dude, could you be the Justice League trailer with the David Bowie Hero song playing? Because it was just so
There's no
on the nose.
There's no subtlety there. Yeah, I get you.
But it felt like everything was like that here. Everything was like, let's make this reference so that people get it.
You know what, too? I recently rewatched season 1, right? Yeah. I went to Target and I got the box set season 1.
It came in like a VHS box.
Yeah, cool. It comes in a VHS case, which is pretty cool. Anyway, I actually do really like season 1. I just, like, rewatching it, I'm like, fuck. This really is, like, way better than season 1 or season 2, only because, like, season 1 had so many big moments that really felt meaningful. You know?
The van flipping over was a really big, like, scene, and they used it in the trailer. But once you lead up to it, that feels even bigger.
Yeah. There's so many moments. Like, not just that, too. It's like Mike and Eleven's relationship.
Yeah.
feels so cool and so natural because it's being built up over the course of the season.
Yeah,
you know,
which is one of the things I said in the beginning when we started talking about part 2. Their separation and then reunion at the end of the series feels better because of their separation.
The only real big moment was their reunion or whatever.
Yeah,
because that was honestly like, I'm pretty sure people started the show immediately saying like, oh, when are Mike and Eleven going to see each other?
That's the only reason I kept watching.
Yeah, that's all anybody wanted to fucking see. And I even feel like there were certain episodes where Mike was in the background, and I was like, I completely forgot this guy was in the show.
Yeah, because like, he's running on cruise control.
He's pushed aside, like, because of like Hopper and Joyce and Will, or like Bob, or fucking Jonathan and racist Billy, whatever. Like all these weird like side stories that I don't really care about. You know?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I still like season 2. I do, and
it was enjoyable. I'm not gonna say it wasn't.
It was good, and I enjoyed Stranger Things 1. Maybe I should go back and rewatch it because I remember watching. I was like, that's really cool. It's like E.T. almost, like that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
This one felt more like an 80s action movie, not so much an 80s like adventure.
It's funny that you bring up E.T. too, because there's a point where Dustin is like kind of like housing or nursing this demi-dog baby.
Yeah, Dart.
That's called D'Artagnan, Dart. And at one point it escapes, right?
Yeah.
It's the end of an episode. It escapes, and he sees it eating his cat, right? Right. In the shot, there's an E.T. figure right next to like the tank. That
you told me this.
Right. So in my mind, I'm saying like, you guys understand that E.T. is a movie that's like totally practical effects. You know, you guys know this movie exists. Yet this whole fucking season is like littered with CG, and I understand like that's just how people do things now, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, think about the van scene in the first season. Think about how big of a moment that is in the series. They flip a fucking van over like these kids, right? It's all practical, and it looks really good, and the payoff is there because it's like it feels real, you know?
I agree.
The gate closing at the end or whatever is it doesn't feel as powerful because it's like it's not real. What I'm looking at is just this girl in front of a green screen, you know? Like it's I don't know.
There's something to be said also about the fact that like Eleven's powers from the beginning in season 1 gradually become bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's why when the van flips, you're like, "Oh, crap." Yeah, that's how strong she is.
You know, Red Letter Media brings us up about... they said this about The Shining. There's a scene in The Shining where there's like an elevator that opens, and blood comes out.
It's so famous.
It's like an elevator that empties out a room full of blood, basically. They said that like Kubrick was trying to get that shot like 5 or 6 times or something. They had to keep refilling the elevator and dumping it out. People were mad at him because they were just like, it looks the fucking same every single time, right?
Yeah.
But the Red Letter Media guys say like that scene is powerful because it's practical, because somebody took the time to fill a fucking elevator with water or like blood, quote unquote, and it spills out. Like imagine watching that scene where the doors open and CG comes out. How less of an effect that would have on the audience, you know? Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah, you know what? Here's what I'll say about that too is one of the crappy things that happened for like a minute in the early 2000s was digital blood splatters. That was like right around like, it was like 2003 to 2010, right around there. Like every horror film, every action film was doing digital blood splatters. They're like, oh my gosh, save us a ton of money, blah blah blah. They look so fake. Yeah, like they're too perfect. Yeah, the weight is like not right on them. Like even I think they did it in a George Romero film, one of his newer ones. They had digital blood. I was like, this looks awful. This looks so terrible, and you could always tell it's CG blood. And then I go back to watch the cheesy practical effect ones, and I'm like, this is just better. I know what's happening, and it looks a little cheesy, but I believe this way more than CG.
It is. I think that's the main point I'm trying to get across is it becomes more believable. You know?
Yeah.
Because
it has grit.
The whole point of like, you know, on-screen actors and all this crap is to make it believable, right?
Right.
To create kind of like atmosphere, to create the illusion that there's a world you're actually looking at, you know?
I think the term is a suspension of belief.
Yeah,
where it's just like you're supposed to believe this is happening, even though you know it's not.
Right. So I mean, like I said, man, like season 2, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. There were things I liked about it. I also watched season 2 twice, and I did like that. You know, in the beginning they have like some foreshadows about the events that happen later on.
Yeah.
Like Dustin and Lucas are playing Dragon's Lair, and Dustin is like, man, I can't believe I fucking lost. This is bullshit. And Lucas is like, oh yeah, Princess Daphne's still mine. I still have a high score or whatever.
You know, I did like that intro because it had the 4 kids. Like, it had the 4 kids kind of surrounding the arcade.
Yeah, it had the kids in it, period.
It felt like a natural progression. Like, all 4 of them crowding around a machine. They're like, oh my god, like the way they all 4 were crowded around that little table at the beginning of season 1.
Right.
It felt good.
And also they had Dig Dug. So Dig Dug is like, oh, okay, so
Tunnels.
Kind of foreshadows the tunnels and the fact
Sure.
that they're underground and all that shit. So it's like,
sure.
okay, I understand it. Like, they're still, they're still professionals.
Right.
They still know how to do things. They still know how to visually like make things look good and all that.
But what's funny is those scenes with the kids and just like kids in an arcade in the 80s. That felt real to me. Like, that felt like the good.
Oh yeah, because it was
the
a real
good
arcade,
parts of the season.
Yeah.
Anytime. I think you've already said this. The best times of that show were when all the kids are together.
I mean, it's just that's why we watch the show, right? Like that's why we're here. But yeah,
so,
I don't know.
Okay, so overall season 2.
6 out of 10. I don't know.
I would give it around that score. I think maybe a little higher because I feel like maybe this is something they had set up, and maybe the third one will be something even more grandiose. But they'll figure out all these problems that they had with this one, like keeping characters around and stuff like that. Hopefully they'll do better in the next one.
Yeah, if you guys are interested too, I mean, Netflix has like a Beyond
Beyond
Stranger Things that has like a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. The actual format of that show is vomit inducing. It's so fucking bad. But if you can,
like, they're trying to redo the magic of like Talking Dead.
Sure, okay.
And like all that stuff.
But so. I mean, if you want to see a bunch of people circle jerk this fucking season, the information is good. The information is in there. If I watched it because I really wanted to know what was going on, behind the scenes and all that. So I mean, for information, it's great.
But the way they shoot it is kind of like all over the place.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
I did like the intro though. The intro is really cool.
Yeah, the intro's
pretty
cool.
The 4 kids are like, it almost looks like an 80s computer, and then they run through everything. I like that.
It's crazy too to hear like Millie Bobby Brown, the girl that plays 11. She like the way she talks about like the way she does the role of 11. Apparently, like, it always makes her cry and stuff.
Yeah.
And like it's really like emotionally impactful for her, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if she's being just like over dramatic or whatever, but
no, I mean that if she in the thing she always says like, oh, after that scene I had to cry for a while.
Yeah,
it means that she's able to put herself in that place.
Yeah, and
just feel everything that comes with it. But it feels like it takes a toll out of her.
I assume it's her first major role, so
I would assume the same thing.
Yeah. Right. I know Gatton Mazarazzo, the kid that plays Dustin. He was apparently on Broadway, and he's like an amazing singer.
Well, wow.
That's so it's pretty crazy.
By the way, I did love that interaction between 11 and Dustin. Where she taps his teeth and was like, teeth. Cute. So adorable. I was like, this is what I want. This.
It's funny though, like, I know it's a small thing, but like, I saw Dustin with teeth and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I was like, I like this kid because he didn't have teeth.
But like that interaction with her at 11 and Dustin, and then he's like, teeth. And I was like, yeah, oh yeah, you like these? And then his little grrr, like the thing he did. I like that, but only because it's the kids.
You know what? Kids. That was actually him apparently. Like, he was like, can I make this sound?
No. I saw the Beyond.
You saw that episode.
Yeah, and they showed how that kind of progressed. But that's the thing, like. That's what I'll say as, I guess, advice to these guys. I mean, they probably know already, but my advice would be to focus again back on the kids.
I mean, also, like, in watching that, you learn that, like, they weren't like, it's not like they were shitting their pants, but they basically were told right after season 1, like, make season 2. You know, like right away, and they said they only had like a fucking paragraph of season 2 written at the time, and even the filming process, like they were filming some, and the last ones hadn't been written.
Yeah.
So they were still figuring it out along the way, which is, I mean, it's really apparent during the season because there's not really like the structure that there is in season 1. You know.
Yeah, and the like any good story that's written, everything that happens has to push towards a certain theme. And some of this stuff didn't feel like that.
Yeah, it's all over the place, basically,
so,
you know.
But again, I don't want to be so negative on it. Like I said in the very beginning, there's a lot of good stuff in it, and I definitely enjoyed it. But it's very different from season 1.
Yeah, it still had some cool moments. You know,
and I'm enjoying. I'm not an '80s kid, you know, but I enjoy all the references for the most part. But some of them can get really heavy-handed, and that's kind of where I have those moments where you roll your eyes and you're like, really?
Yeah, like
But maybe their audience really eats that up, so I don't know.
I don't know actually, because it's hard to tell. This season has really, really, really mixed reviews. Yeah. There are people that are just like Stranger Things 2, hell yeah, and then there's people that are like Stranger Things 2, complete trash. So
okay. I don't know if. I don't like it because there's no middle ground.
I mean, yeah.
You can like things and you can hate things, but you still want to watch. Like if they announce season 3, we're like, yeah, of course I'm gonna watch season 3 because I still want to see what happens to Mike, 11, Lucas, Dustin, and Will. I want to see what happens to them. Maybe this time Will won't have to be incapacitated the entire time.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
That sucks for that actor that he's always incapacitated.
He did a really good job, by the way.
He did a great job.
He did an amazing job.
The part where he has the seizure was... I know it's supposed to be really serious, but I laughed.
It was pretty hilarious as well.
It was, but... I mean, overall, I'm good with this season, and I want to see season 3. I don't know if I'll rewatch it.
Yeah, there's a bit of a, like, kind of... What am I trying... Like, a bittersweetness to it, because... I didn't really like it like as much as I liked season 1, but in my head I'm just like, this is what's canon. This is what actually is happening, you know? Like, so it's like
when you watch the prequels.
Yeah, you know, you're kind of like, okay, like it's not very good, but this is what he fucking wrote. So I mean, you're gonna have to live with it, basically, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we've gone long enough on this fucking episode, huh? You think so?
All right, yeah, I think so. But yeah. There you go.
Yeah, go ahead and if you guys have any thoughts on it, you know, go ahead and tell us down below or whatever, you know.
I mean, if you disagree with our like assessment, please let us know. We're pretty. I don't know if you've seen, but we comment and stuff. So let us know what you think.
Yeah. But yeah, that does it for this week, guys. Any final thoughts or anything? I think we've said
that a couple times, so I'm just gonna say, go watch season 2.
6, solid 6, I think. But yeah,
and check out Toons.
Oh yeah, check out our playthroughs if you want to see more of us. If an hour and a half isn't enough, you know. So yeah, that's it for this week, guys. See you next week.
See you next week, guys.